One thing about the Nintendo Switch is there's been a lot of games released for the system. If you look at the last week, 2 days ago on Thursday, we had over 19 games released on the Nintendo Switch's eShop. So a lot of games are starting to go a bit unnoticed. A lot of gamers are starting to get overwhelmed with games, myself included. As a video game reviewer, sometimes you have to meet deadlines. So you end up picking up a game, you buy a game, you like it, but you don't get far enough in it to review it, and then something else drops on your desk, and then you sort of forget to review the game. But there's a lot of good games that I've been playing lately or have played recently that I really enjoy for the Switch, and I don't see many people talking about these games. So in today's video, I just want to cover some really good Nintendo Switch games that you probably haven't bought because of various reasons. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about some Nintendo Switch games you probably haven't bought or played. So the first game I want to talk about is Axiom Verge. Now, Axiom Verge I have talked about very briefly on the channel in my best of 2017 for the Nintendo Switch video. I said this was one of the best eShop games on the Nintendo Switch, and I honestly mean that. Now, why I didn't review this? Well, I waited for the physical copy, and by the time the physical copy of the game came out, pretty much everyone else had already reviewed it, and I feel like this game is sort of still flying a bit under the radar. If you're a fan of Metroid, which more than likely you are since you are a Nintendo Switch owner, this is really a great game for you. It plays a lot like a classic 2D Metroid. You have to find different weapons in order to unlock different areas and whatnot. There's big boss battles, there's constantly enemies on the screen. It's very fast, it's very fluid, and it's very fun. It runs great on the Nintendo Switch, and there's a lot to do and a lot to see in the game. Now, the game has released on other platforms, but for whatever reason, I just never got around to playing the game, and it's kind of a shame because I've really been enjoying it, and I sort of wish that I had reviewed it back when it was super popular, but now that sort of the dust has settled, I think it's time that you take a look at Axiom Verge if you haven't yet, because it's a really solid game. It sort of incorporates a 12 bits graphical style. It's not quite 8-bit, but not quite 16-bit. And funnily enough, the next game I'm going to talk about actually calls itself 12-bit. But Axiom Verge, definitely a game that you should check out on the Nintendo Switch if you have not played it on other platforms. The next game I want to talk about is an eShop exclusive that recently released, and it's really, really enjoyable. And it's another game that has been out on other platforms, but for whatever reason, I never got around to playing it, which is really weird because it seems like the sort of game that would be in line with what I like, and that's the Mutant Muds collection. Now, this just released on the Nintendo Switch, and it consists of 3 games. You have the classic Mutant Muds game, which has you playing as a character who has to take out mutant muds with his little jetpack, water pack, excuse me, and he has a little jetpack that he could boost around on. It's essentially a 2D platformer, but it's really fun, and what really makes the game unique is a mechanic that was actually first introduced in gaming back for Wario Land on the Virtual Boy, which is actually an excellent game if you've never played it. But you had the ability to sort of jump into the background in Wario Land, and it created 2 different planes of gameplay. Well, Mutant Mud sort of takes that to the next level, and you actually have 3 different planes of gameplay that you can either get. You have the main plane, you have the background, and you also have the foreground that you could jump into. So it's really fun. It's pretty much a 2D collect-a-thon. There's a lot of fun to do. There's a lot of fun things to do in the game, and it's just really well crafted. There's hidden secrets and whatnot. There's also an additional game mode in there that has extra challenges and extra levels, sort of ramps up the difficulty, has different worlds and whatnot, and that's really fun too. But there's actually a third game in there that it's really weird because I never talk about puzzle games on the channel, yet I'm sort of secretly addicted to them, Even weird ones like Wild Snake on the SNES, I love that game and I could play that game for hours. And Mutant Muds features this block dropping game that's essentially sort of kind of like a Tetris. Basically, you're trying to match up different colors, you get a water block and you throw it down and then you clear that line. But there's also variables such as, things that will knock out everything in a certain area, things that will knock out everything horizontally and vertically. And it's a game that I find myself just playing, I intend to play it for a few minutes, but I end up playing it for like a few hours, and time just goes by, and I'm just keep dropping down water bombs, dropping down water bombs, dropping down water bombs. It's strangely addictive, and it's really fun. You get all 3 of these games in a $15 package. That's another great thing about all these games I'm going to cover today. None of these games are $60 retail releases, although some of them are retail releases, and this is another cheap game that you should definitely add to your Nintendo Switch collection. It's a hell of a lot of fun. If you haven't played it before, if you've avoided it on other platforms, definitely check out the Mutant Muds collection on the Nintendo Switch. The next game I want to talk about is a game that probably should have sold very well on the Nintendo Switch. It's pretty much right in line with sort of the gamers that are picking up the system, but there was one major problem. They released a 3D platformer the same time that Super Mario Odyssey came out. And although this was only $30, nobody picked up this game because nobody heard of this game, including myself. I actually was on Toys R Us's website and I saw this game, Poe Explorer Edition, and I was like, what is this? I've never heard of this game before. I've literally never seen anything on this game. What is it? And I looked into it and it was a 3D platformer. Sort of looks a bit like a Hat in Time. And I was like, okay, this looks kind of cool, you know, maybe I'll check it out. And I ended up picking it up. And really, it's a super solid game. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's definitely that sort of Spyro the Dragon or Super Mario 64 collectathon style game. But there's a lot to do. And a lot of the levels, especially the later levels in the game, get very creative. It's a really fun game. There's a lot of unlockables. There's a lot of hidden levels as well. And it's just really solid 3D platforming. Like I said, it's nothing special. I think the aesthetic of the game maybe hurts a little bit. You know, those sort of gamers are like, oh, I only play Call of Duty and Doom and hardcore games. They might not like the sort of kid-flavored aesthetic, but me, intellectual adult, doesn't mind this because it's about the gameplay, and the gameplay is super solid. I will say the jumping is a bit off at times as far as when you're jumping on enemies. That's your main form of attack in the game, and it can feel a little bit loose at times, but it's not really anything super noticeable. It's not anything that ruins the game. But if you like 3D puzzle platformers, honestly, Poe Explorer Edition is super fun. It's a game that wasn't on my radar. I bought it on a whim and I ended up really liking it, and I think a lot of you guys will too. So check out Poe if you get a chance. It's about 30 bucks physically, and it's definitely a well recommended game from me. The next game I want to talk about has been released on a plethora of systems, and I actually own it on another system, the 3DS. But that is Retro City Rampage DX. Good lord, I love this game. Imagine Grand Theft Auto in an 8-bit aesthetic, and that is what you have with this game. There is tons of pop culture references. There are tons of just funny little things within the game. It plays out like an awesome homage to, like, you know, a 90s and 80s culture freak, and it's really good. It's just super fun. You have a lot of different missions. There's a ton of different mission variety, a ton of different characters from different games like Solid Snake and Doc Brown, but obviously under different names, but definitely inspired by those characters. And honestly, it's just a blast to play through. Now, the physical version was a very limited release. Now, you can still get it digitally on the Nintendo Switch eShop. So if you've never played Retro City Rampage DX, honestly, you're missing out on a fantastic game. I don't care what platform you get it on. You really need to check out this game because it's super good, it's super fun, and one of my favorite games to play. The next game I only bought because the game was cheap. Literally, that's the only reason I bought this game, and I just bought it because it was cheap, because I don't like what this developer normally does, and that is Telltale games. I do not like Telltale games. I like The Wolf Among Us. I thought that was pretty cool, but all the Walking Dead games and stuff, I don't watch The Walking Dead. I don't care about The Walking Dead. The Back to the Future one was alright, but Batman, the Telltale series, came to the Nintendo Switch, and I was kind of like, I didn't care. I had played part of the first mission on the PlayStation 4. I bought it for like $5, and I never finished it because I got bored out of my mind because I just don't like this style of game. But I actually sat down and played this game, and I played through a couple of the story missions, and I found out that the reason people like Telltale games isn't because of the gameplay necessarily, but it's because of the writing in the game. And this is the perfect game to play on your Nintendo Switch when you're just sort of laying in bed, when you just want to relax. It's a lot of fun. It's a really well-crafted story that takes place in the Gotham universe and whatnot, and there's a lot of different choices to make. There's a lot of fun things that happen in the game, a lot of cameos as well. The voice acting is top-notch, and it just tells a good story. I'm really interested in what happens next. That's what drives me to play this game more. Now, this did release on a plethora of other systems. The Nintendo Switch version came out at about $40, but you could commonly find it for $30 nowadays. I actually picked this up for $20, and honestly, it's well worth it. It's a really fun game, and if you've never played the Batman Telltale games, even if you don't like Telltale games but you like Batman, it's definitely worth checking out. The final game I want to talk about is a twin stick shooter that came out on the Wii U, and I believe it came out on the PS4 as well, but that is Rive. Rive Ultimate Edition came to the Nintendo Switch a couple weeks ago, and it went relatively unnoticed, I felt, and that's a shame because this is a really solid game. If you like twin stick shooters, it's a lot of fun. It looks very good, it runs very well, it's very fluid, and there's a lot to do and a lot to see in the game. It's a really cool game, and it's a shame that it's Two Tribes' last game. I used to love Two Tribes games. They've made a ton of great games, and this is sort of their swan song, their thank you to gamers for supporting them over 20 plus years. So if you've never played Rive on the other platforms, you definitely need to check out Rive. It's a definite under the radar game, but it's an awesome game. If you love twin stick shooters, old school sort of arcade stuff, lots of big explosions and fancy crisp graphics, this game is gonna rock your socks. Alright, and that is just a handful of the games I have been playing lately, but these are the ones that I've really enjoyed that I don't see many people talking about that I think deserve a little bit of recognition. Let me know in the comment section what games you've been playing lately and what games you feel that people should know about so that we can all help each other out and play some great games, because there's a lot of games coming out on the Nintendo Switch lately. A lot of games. And thank you for checking out this video. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, check out other videos on the channel, hit that like button. If you really like the way I do things, make sure you check out my social medias. Check out the Patreon if you really want to. And I thank you guys for your continued support on this channel. This channel is just growing and growing every day, and I absolutely love it, and it drives me to make more videos for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you check out other things on the channel, and I will catch you guys next time. Later.
RGT NA5, RGT NA5. RGT NA5.